about that later.
Before taking responsibility for licensed shovelware like Star Wars Kinect or Walking Dead Survival Instinct, Terminal Reality had a reputation as a respectable action developer. In 2002, they decided to unleash a cocktail of Nazis, monsters, and ancient artifacts, tipped with a badass action heroine called Bloodrayne. It was arguably one of the more popular action games of its time, owing to its unapologetic violent and sexual imagery. Is this simply a case of style over substance, or is there something worthwhile hidden beneath the surface? The Gegengeistgruppe are investigating supernatural relics that can help the Third Reich, and it's up to you to hinder their efforts as much as possible. The story is more of an excuse to kick Nazi and monster ass than anything else, but the writing is genuinely good, and the story itself is coherent and conclusive, given that the shameless presentation would otherwise suggest a horrible narrative at best. Bloodrayne is a pure action game with a few twists. While Rayne's blades are going to be the go-to weapon for most of the game, Rayne can also carry any weapons the enemies drop, but ammo can't be stockpiled, and only one heavy weapon can be held at once. This is where Rayne's abilities come into play. For instance, if the action is too fast for your liking, you can always take advantage of slow motion if you want to matrix your way through things. Her aura sense also helps in darker areas, and it also doubles as a waypoint system. However, while it does tell you where you need to go, the manner in which to progress is so convoluted at times that the waypoints are more confusing than anything else. As Rayne is half vampire, she not only has superhuman strength, but can also feed on others to recover health. The game can devolve into chaotic button mashing at times, but it's always fun thanks to the myriad of ways that combat scenarios can play out in. While Rayne's choice of attire does come off as cheap sex appeal, that doesn't make her any less of a badass. She can take a respectable bit of punishment before biting the dust, and she often wisecracks like the best both in cutscenes
Whatever you are, you just said that.
and while in combat, though one must wonder how she can put up with winter temperatures later in the game given her relatively skimpy outfit. In terms of enemies, you have Nazis, the parasitic, if uninspiredly shaped Daemites, zombies, and monstrous vampires. While the kitchen sink approach might initially appear slapdash, in reality this adds variety, especially since shooting and slicing are your only means of defense. But if there's one thing the game really nails, besides Rayne herself of course, it's the difficulty curve. The only penalty for missing jumps in the game is some light damage, with few endless pits even by the end of the game. Fighting zombies in Louisiana is also nothing short of a cakewalk. But not long into the game, when the Nazis show up, you'll start realizing that bullets are not on the list of things that Rayne can suck up for long. And in the last act of the game, humanoid vampire bats that can kill Rayne within seconds are introduced. Given how many tools you have at your disposal, the game never becomes punishing, but since there is no way to save mid-mission, or even checkpoints, careful play is a good idea. Visually, Bloodrayne has aged far better than most games of its time. Not only is environmental interactivity far above average, but the texture work and lighting are simply superb. And while some effects look cheap and some models are outright edgy, it just looks and plays far better than it should. The game is also atmospheric thanks to its great soundtrack and the fact that everything takes place at night. It can even be played on widescreen resolutions properly, and the GOG version fixes the broken cutscenes the original release had. Just don't forget to lower the brightness, as by default the game looks outright washed out. Though, mention has to be given to the enemy designs and animations. Suffice it to say, the imagery is nothing if not compelling. Just wait until you see Rayne sucking as hard as she can on a vampire's neck. Bloodrayne might initially look like nothing more than cheap pandering, but in reality it's one of the more enjoyable action games you're likely to stumble across. Whether it's hardcore action or softcore pornography you're looking for, Bloodrayne isn't a bad place to start.